We're talking today with Magnis Energy Technologies. If you don't know the company, the ASX code is MNS and it has a market cap of around 180 million. Magnis is a vertically integrated lithium-ion battery technology and materials company with strategic assets in investments and partnerships in the electrification supply chain. The company's US-based subsidiary, IM3 New York, operates a gigawatt-scale lithium-ion battery manufacturing project in Endicott, New York. We welcome back Hoshi Daruwalla, who is the company's US-based managing director. Welcome, Hoshi.
Hi, Paul. How are you? I trust you're well.
Very well indeed, my friend. Very well indeed.
Okay, excellent, excellent. I hear Sydney is really cold. Well, the US, we are in the middle of 35 degrees centigrade here. Couldn't be more evidence for the need of renewable energy and energy storage.
Absolutely, and you're absolutely right. It's been very cold these last few days, a bit of a polar blast over Australia, so we're very jealous of your warm weather. Okay, so I've got a few questions today, Hoshi. It's been a month or so since we last called up, so let's start by maybe give us an update on what's been happening at Magnis since we last spoke about a month ago.
Sure. So, Paul, yes, it has been a month. With the speed of things that moving here, it seems like it's been a long time since we last spoke, but I looked up my notes too, and yes, it was June 20th. Today, I've taken the liberty of inviting to this call two of our team members who we have an internal team called the Technical Advisory Committee, the TAC Committee, and Dr. Mike Osborne and Mr. Wade Guindy. You'll hear from them as they introduce themselves shortly. It's inspiring when we have our internal meetings between Dr. Mike, Wade, and the attendees. At most times, we're close to, if not more than 100 years of a lithium-ion battery real-world manufacturing experience in that particular meeting. So given that, Dr. Mike and Wade, can you quickly and briefly introduce yourselves, please?
Yes, so thank you, Hoshi. I'm happy to be here. My background in the battery world is in lithium manganese spinel, where I was worked in the technical side and the commercialization of those cathode materials. My broader background is in research and development, technical support for production and sales, consulting, and executive management. I've been working at this for over 50 years.
Thank you, Dr. Mike. Wade?
Thank you, Hoshi. Hi, Paul, and thank you for having us. I started my career in the battery business 31 years ago. We were the pioneers of producing lithium-ion batteries, and prior to that, I've worked in electronic defense. In the battery industry, I held executive positions in operations and in technology over 31 years now. Scaled up several battery technologies, so my expertise really in scale-up and commercialization.
Thank you. Well, I've got some questions. In our last interview, you talked, Hoshi, in depth about IM3 New York battery plant receiving UN 38.3 certification. A question that's been widely debated across social media channels post that news is why the Test 7 was not required. Can you talk about this?
Well, Paul, if it's on social media, it's got to be true. So let's more seriously. The UN 38.3 test for the production samples we last spoke about has been reported as complete. We have the official certification from the testing authority. Everything's fine. I can appreciate the question around T7 because it's a technical question. Wade, would you like to take that question?
Sure. T7, it's an overcharge, which for a secondary battery. We all know that. Our product is not sold as an individual cell. If you were selling an individual cell used by itself, then you require an overcharge circuitry protection. But since it's part of a system, a module, there is no requirement for that test for individual cells. For example, the Apple battery, it's a single cell, but it operates a device. Our cells, it's part of a system. The entire system would require, but not the single cell.
Thank you, Wade. Paul, if Wade and Dr. Mike are giving you those comments, let me tell you, they're very humble, but some of the experience here goes back very deep and very long, and I would treat that as credible. Also, the testing has been done at an entity that is 140 years in testing. Of course, not 140 years for all lithium-ion batteries. And they're a global company. We test to what we're being asked to test to. We don't specify what we want to test to. So that's how it is.
Now, I hear loud and clear. Thanks, guys. And let's move on. Can you give us an update on what is currently happening at IM3 New York and particularly the anode active material project? And let's talk around the plan on bringing production forwards and the pathway to revenue.
Sure. Dr. Mike, can you take that?
Sure. I'll address the IM3NY production process. They're moving along the traditional path of having to go from a low rate commercial production sample rate to a targeted high rate commercial production rate. So you have to make those samples first for your customers to validate, the cells, and that's where we're at.
And Hoshi, the graphite price has fallen significantly this year. What do you see as the key drivers of this weakness, and how is the price weakness affecting anode pricing?
Oh, Paul, you're throwing me a curveball. Prices of commodities and materials fluctuate all the time, Paul, and various reasons for that. Frankly, the pricing does what it does, and sometimes it's things in our control. Sometimes it's macroeconomic and all these geopolitical issues. How is China coming along? How is Korea coming? All of that stuff. What we do have control over is 5 fundamental things that would make or break any cell manufacturing, graphite, or such kind of high businesses. That is what I call as technology, operations, manufacturing, and supply chain as number 2. Number 3 is sales agreement. Number 4 is funding. Number 5 is experienced human resources. So let's talk through a little bit about each of them. Technology, as you know, has to be suitable for high volume production. It has to make product the right way at high volume at the correct yield. We touched on that last time. Operations, supply chain, manufacturing, the key Magnis value driver is the vertically integrated supply chain, having a high density, high purity, easy to mine and process graphite, which then flows into a large format cell manufacturing, such as IM3, is a significant graphite synergy. No company in the world has that. Sales agreements, I think we've covered that in past discussions. If we need to discuss more, we can. Funding is a critical area. I think it's common knowledge now. We've put it out there. IM3 is working through the application for the $700 million in US DOE financing. As you know, next year is election year, so we anticipate a lot of movement around things. IM3 is in a very unique spot. As you know, it's taken the old IBM facility, which is being repurposed for IM3 battery manufacturing. There's not that many US homegrown battery entities, cell manufacturing entities. So I don't want to say things that are not in my control, but I would suspect if you join the dots, that $700 million in US DOE financing looks pretty good based on the feedback that we have received. It's a matter of time when our application comes up and all the due diligence is completed, which goes through the process, and we really don't want to touch that. That's something that the US government does, and all we can do is support with the questions. The last one, number 5, the critical area which folks on this call, Wade, Dr. Mike, these are areas where now the phase that we're in, we're going to high volume manufacturing. We need experienced technical team members, and a couple of those are on today's call. So we believe we've covered the 5 critical areas of what is required to be in the cell manufacturing and graphite business fairly well. And that's what we have control over. Once you have the right team, Paul, if our pricing agreements are not exactly how we need them to be, those are some of the things that we are working through and adjusting them, making sure that we get the results that we want out of these agreements.
Good. And just a quick question there, Hoshi, with regards to the application for that DOE loan. We know it takes it takes time to come to fruition. Can you just remind us when you first put that application in, and is there any precedents, other loans that have been given on a sort of time frame? Is it 6, 9, 12 months? Is there any evidence out there to just give investors a better idea?
Sure, Paul. Thank you for that question. And again, you're asking a question which we don't have control over, but I can give you indicators of what we know. It takes about 6 months plus for a due diligence review from when the due diligence is initiated. We are being informed that we are going to due diligence fairly soon. And so the timeline of that, now that's a normal year, right? I mean, being an election year next year, it may be shorter, it may be longer. But we're anticipating in the next couple of quarters, this should move along to a point where we are at a point where the 700 million is gone through the process. We have that, and then we're at the point where we bring in the right equity partners in support of the 700 million, because it's a matched financing. You have to match that with the funds that you raise.
Now, gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with all of you today. And again, many thanks for taking the time. As I said last time, clearly a lot going on at Magnis, and look, we really look forward to speaking with all of you again in the near future. So thanks, gentlemen, and the best of luck for the next few months.
Thank you, Paul, and thanks for the opportunity. And as always, thanks to our Magnis shareholders. We really appreciate that, and you're top of mind. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Paul. Thank you.